So where should we start then? Fear. Where does it come from? Well, of course, people will say fear has helped us survive, and that's the truth. It has. It's helped us to adapt, to be flexible, to survive. Or fight flight comes on, and it's really important if we are being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. We need to be fearful, and but most of us don't have external saber-toothed tigers. They're in here, They're the things that we've taken on that may not be ours, that were handed to us on a plate by probably our family, our ancestral lineage, and of course, if you believe in reincarnation, we bring with us information, stories from the past to help us to survive into the future. But I think what's happening is that all those stories are being put up for healing right now, and not for repeating. So this is what I'm with really right now. And I do want to say that my best story around fear is some years ago, I was doing a vision quest, a kind of overnight vision quest in West Virginia. And our facilitator had said, what I want you to do today is to go out and find your place in the woods and place stones in each of the 4 directions. So, and then later on, you're going to go back to that place. So I went out in the woods, and I wandered and I wandered, and I couldn't find my place. And this didn't feel right, or that didn't feel right. And in the end, I found a place, but there was what looked like a tent. And I thought, well, I can't have my place here. So obviously somebody's living in the woods here, so that won't work. So anyway, time was running out, and I went back to class, and everybody had found their place, and I'm like, I haven't found my place. So the facilitator, Bill Plotkin, says to me, well, didn't you find anywhere? And I went, yeah, I did. I found a place, but it looked like somebody was camping there. And he's like, no, I think you got mistaken. I think that's the place where the sweat lodge takes place. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, but then it's a sacred place, so it can't be my place. And he looked at me like, why not? And why can't that be your place? And I realized I had all these beliefs, instantly come in. It can't be my place. It's sacred. I'm not worthy. I don't know. All kinds of beliefs came scattering in. And it was great because he just challenged it, not by telling me I should change my beliefs, but by simply saying, why not? So anyway, I go back to my place, and I start to place the stones in the 4 directions, and I realize I don't know, I haven't got a compass, I don't know which is which direction, and I'm standing there like, and suddenly I heard this noise coming through the woods, and it was a herd of deer, and literally they came in front of me, and one of them faced me. One of them turned this way, another turned that way, and another turned that way, as if to say, these are your 4 directions. And I'm like, why don't I trust these things? The universe is speaking to me so clearly. So, okay, I put my stones in the 4 directions. Later on that night, at 8 o'clock, we were sent out to sit in our sit spot, in our sacred place. So I go out, and the idea is to face your fears, to literally invite them in and face your fears. Okay. And we were told to take a rattle. And every time a fear came up, we would rattle. And because I don't know the West Virginia forest, I have no idea what kind of creatures live there. you know, what I might be faced with. So anyway, I set off, and I'm going out into the woods, into the forest, and I can't find my place. And I thought I knew where it was, and I wandered and I wandered and I wandered, and up this way and back that way, and up this way and back that way, and I'm like, whoa, this is really weird. I can't find my sacred place. And I thought I knew where it was, and time was going on, and I was getting caught on brambles and bushes, and then this voice came in my head: the place you seek is already here. So eventually I find this log to sit on, and I'm sat there, and it's dark, but I can see the moon has come up. I can see the moon behind the trees. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to sit here for a minute. The place you seek is already here. Anyway, out of the corner of my eye, I see something, and it's completely still, and I freeze because I don't know what it is, and I almost don't want to turn my head to look, because if I move, it might move, and then where will we be? Because I don't know what it is. So I sat there for ages, just frozen, not moving. And I realized this thing was not moving either. And my head was telling me, maybe there are giant praying mantises here. You know, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's, you know, some kind of creature that comes out at night, and it's stalked me, and we're sitting together. And this was my biggest fear. I don't know what it is. But the thought that it was a giant praying mantis was really in my head, because it was like a stick insect, but it was so still. And then after a while, I think, do you know, it hasn't moved. So I very slowly, kind of without seeming to move my head to look. And by the light of the moon, I could see what it was. And it was a stick. It was a twig. And it had terrified me for I don't know how long. And I had to laugh at myself, because it's like, I have just been terrified by a twig. So that taught me something really, really valuable, because it was what was going on in my head, the beliefs, the I don't know what it is, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And that's where we are right now in the world. You know, when fear comes up, we can't reason. Our limbic brain comes online, and it's supposed to, with fear, so that we can run or fight, or as in my case, I froze, or fawn. Fawn is the fourth version of this. Like, what is fawning? It's compliance. It's like, do as you're told, do as you're told, do as you're told. Don't rock the boat, don't make any ripples, do as you're told, do as you're told. And it's like, this is where we're at. So my biggest fear was in my head. And I tell that story because, yes, fear is important. In a way, it has helped us survive. But when the fear comes from here, it does ridiculous things to our brain, and then we can't reason, we can't think straight. And I look at what's happening in the world, and I think, yeah, that's exactly what's happening now. We have an enemy, a virus called, it's invisible, the invisible enemy. And we can't see it. It could be anywhere. I could be that. I could be killing people with my virus if I had it, but I don't know if I've got it, because it's invisible. Do you see where we're at? It's very scary in the sense that so many people have been sucked into this fearful thinking. That I came to realize that there is nothing, everything in the universe is benign. It's benign. It's there to give us a story, to show us where, that showed me where I was afraid. not being able to, first of all, find my place, even though my place was here. I learned my place is here. And then to be terrified by a twig. And I think that what's going on in the world is there is a lot of twigs. We don't dare look. But the biggest twig is, I think, is death.
We're kind of on a giant vision quest, aren't we, collectively, you know, having to come into our domestic spaces and into ourselves in a different way, into our relationships, and you know, but I think those experiences out in nature, they are experiential, you know, and that's what they're there to do, is to bring those fears up.
A long time ago, before 2012, I was very much looking at the Mayan calendar. And the Mayan calendar is a calendar, and you can see through the 9 levels that we've worked through as humans, as a human species. But also we do that individually as we mature and we wake up. And there's a moment, I was like, I really understood something, and it was that we get what we need before we need it.
Mm.
We just do. That is the map. And nothing was more obvious to me than when, just before the Ice Age, man discovered how to work with fire. That was such a relief to me, because it's like we get what we need. I think that's what I learned by that twig. I learned to trust the universe. And even then now, I sometimes collapse into, I don't know what's happening. But in my soul, that twig gave me a big lesson. It's like, trust that the universe is benign. It's working for us. It's not against us. And there's nothing that we need to fight. It's going to happen. We're waking up. Consciousness is expanding. I'm sure that's what's happening. We're about to take a giant leap, but we don't know what that will look like. And of course, any change for our egos is loss. You think about when the limbic brain comes on, the neocortex shuts down. You can't think straight. You've got adrenaline, cortisol, all that kind of thing running through your body. How do you calm the limbic brain is through mindfulness and ceremony and ritual, which is what the shamans do, which is what we teach, are really important in calming the limbic brain so that you get back your reason and your ability to think clearly, and that that bigger perspective, because when you're in the limbic brain, you don't have any of that available to you. Mm. You see, so the only way really to navigate through all this fear is mindfulness. Death is really on the table and it's in our face. And we are going to be extinct if we don't adapt, if we don't make this leap in consciousness. And it's happening everywhere, on every level. There was a time when we thought the world was flat, and it's not, it's round. You know, there's a time when we thought the sun revolved around the earth, and it's not. This is one of those times. I want to call it an epoch, actually. It's more than just a time. It's a huge leap that we are making, and if we don't make it, we are destroying our everything, and everything is crumbling. Everything that has been built is being pulled apart right now.
You know, you talked about trust, and it's kind of, you were talking about trust in the universe, but it's also kind of inner guidance, isn't it? You know, and that's something we're not taught, you know, and in my experience, I was actively taught to go against my inner guidance. And I think it's really hard in a world where the things that people were taught to trust in, the systems, social structures, are crumbling. Without the inner guidance, you know, it is incredibly scary, because what do you have? What's your compass? What's your anchor point, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I suppose in recent years I've been compelled to try and reach more people with our work, because I know how important that is to have something that you trust. And it has to be you. It has to be your intuition. And we are so, whether we know it or whether we don't know it, we are so connected to the earth. We're made of earth. You know, our bodies are made of earth. And we've seen ourselves pulled away from that, thinking that this is, you know, this is all there is. And yet the earth herself is informing us. Yeah, it really is about listening. But we we don't listen either. It's like there's so much coming at us. It's like we can't hear that still voice. I like the fact, I think it's like a cosmic joke that it's called a coronavirus. It's like the crown, you know? And I've been working on this shadow workshop that I'm hoping that I can do some of it online. And it's all about sovereignty. You know, when we pull out of that bag all the things that we put away, what comes with it is our gold, you know, our unique individual gift to the world. And when that happens, we become a sovereign. You know, we can wear the crown. And the twisted aspect of that, the twisted aspect of the crown is the tyrant. I think it was in Lord of the Rings, there was a king who was literally shriveling up, and next to him was this person whispering in his ear, you know, listen to me, I'll tell you. And the king himself was losing his, or had almost lost his sovereignty. And I think our ego does that, you know, the tyrannical aspect of ourselves does that and destroys our sovereignty. So, and also then we become paranoid because we're filled with fear, and paranoia takes place. And our crown chakra is where we are connected to that trust in something bigger than us. And you'll know this. I love something that you said about a long time ago. I remember you saying that this is the place where we reside. No, God resides in us. And then the ninth chakra, or outside of that, is where we reside with God. And I love that. Because if we, and I'm not talking about a religious God, by the way, I'm talking about a power that is greater than all of us, that when we come together, somehow manifests itself in a different kind of power, not power over, but empowerment. And I think if we were all empowered, our sovereign self, then we wouldn't be hoodwinked or fooled by that voice, you see.
I think, you know, even the idea of the crown has kind of become so corrupted. People are scared of that gift, you know, because it's seen as egoic, or it's been used so negatively. I guess people have to have their own experience of what sovereignty means for them.
It's about leadership, but leadership in a different way. It's like, if we could all learn to lead our own lives instead of have them led for us. I keep going back to that, but there's these two sides of the coin. You either lead your own life or somebody else leads it for you. You either wear your own crown or you give it to somebody else to wear. And if somebody else wears it, you can be sure that it's going to be long before we chop their knees off. That's what we do. We pump people up, we put them on a pedestal, and we see their crown, and it's instead of owning our own sovereignty, we give it away because it's actually quite scary. It's actually quite a burden, or it can be. We don't want it because it requires a certain responsibility. And what I teach is it's not about being responsible for everybody else. It's being personally responsible for what you think, what you believe, how you behave, what you tell yourself, what message you put out in the world, what words you use, you know, all of that. That's personal responsibility. And it's a tough, it can be a lonely path as well. But I would rather be a sovereign than a rebel or a ranger. And I think that's really important, because otherwise you fight. I'd rather just be in my own power, which means that you can change the world, but you change your world.
I've really been with those words from the, you know, opening sacred space prayer recently, of shining like a bright star in the night sky and also being part of a constellation. That's just been in my head for the last week. Our own purpose is so powerful, you know, and waking up to what that is just, it's a life changer. And it's possible to shine and be part of a group that is shining.
In a constellation, sometimes one star shines, twinkles more than the other, and then another, and then another, and then another, and another. So they're not competing with each other. You know, they're just doing their thing. And to shine is really important. We have to shine, because if we don't, we're hiding. And I had an experience a few years ago in Romania. We have fire ceremonies and gatherings, and this particular fire ceremony, they invited the children as well. So all the children came to fire. And it was one of those moments of like, totally understanding something. So the children are very perceptive. So they had the fire, everybody came to fire and put their sticks on the fire. There was chanting and singing, and then the fire was done and they all went indoors to have tea. But the children said, "Why are these people so shining?" It's like, yes, children can see this, you know. When we allow ourselves to shine, what a beautiful thing that is, really. And again, I go back to ceremony, rituals, circles around fires are just opportunities to gather together and create a ritual of that's sacred, full of gratitude and appreciation. And just that helps us all to shine. People that have done their work, that have peeled away the old beliefs, allow themselves to shine, step into ceremony, something magical happens. Just does.
So what's your shadow workshop? Is it kind of formed yet?
I'm going to trial it online, as an online workshop. So at the moment, I've been spending a lot of time doing a PowerPoint presentation. And it honestly, Siena, it looks like my book. As I'm doing this, I'm thinking, oh, this is my book. I'm actually writing my book here, but I'm putting it as a PowerPoint presentation. So it will be quite theoretical in a way. But even so, I think we'll give people a taste of what this is all about, and a few exercises to take away with them. We'll see.
So will that be open to anyone?
Yes. Yeah, it will. Anyone who's willing to make that journey. It's not popular, you know, shadow work isn't popular. It's so much easier to look out there and say, that's what's wrong with the world, and that's, you know, these are the people to blame, and that's what's wrong. You know, it's much easier to do that than to bring it home and look at where does that live in me. You know, the guy that is at the top doing all the vaccination business, I don't want to name him, but the megalomania out there who wants to rule the world with his vaccinations. And I'm thinking, whoa, you know, this is megalomania. And then I have to think, where is that in me? You know, where does that sit in me? Because I'm seeing it and I'm not liking it. I get it. I want to rule my world. I want everybody to do medicine wheel work. You know, it's the same kind of thing, really. Because basically, you know, we're all saying the same thing. Do this and you'll feel better. Do that and things will be better. But yeah. So pulling back the projection so that those people don't have to hold that for us. And it in a way, that burden, I mean, I was feeling that last week when so many people were sending me stuff, you know, the dark side of humanity, you know, okay, that is happening, but at the same time keep my focus on the kind of world I know is possible, and I know I want to live in and I want to create. I was also with this, perhaps the people sending it to me are all saying help as well, you know. And actually, what we all are looking for is support to hold the vision of a different world. If we could, everybody who had that vision could hold hands and really focus, we could make something new happen. Of course, we're going to get labeled, you know, wafty, or you know, oh yeah, let's all hold hands in Silicon Valley and the world would be a different place, hippie shit, you know. But actually there's something in that connecting up, because if we don't connect, if we stay separate, then things can drop through. But if we hold together, we can hold this. It's just a vision I have, but we can hold the earth as she goes through this into, and whatever that new world looks like, and I know how I want it to look. And if we hold the earth and hold that vision, there's a better chance of us having that world than the world that somebody else is dreaming for us.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so much unhappiness over the last few years of like the world other people have dreamt or, you know, are dreaming, and the onus has to come back to me, doesn't it? And what am I doing? What's my vision? You know, and how am I holding it? And, you know, what you said about being labelled as wafty, and I think that's part of the risk of sovereignty, isn't it? It's part of the risk of shining, is that I'm going to upset the apple cart, and I have to accept that. Showing up in my life in a very visible way, I run the risk, you know, I run the risk of being adored, and I run the risk of being hated and judged, and you know, and I have to accept both of those.
Yeah, exactly.
And
in a way, if you're in yourself, it's like that doesn't impact it. It doesn't stick. There's nothing to stick. And I think the places where it sticks are the places like, okay, I need to deal with that, you know, that heal that. Why is that sticking? But we all have been taught so well about how to be loved, how to be accepted, how to be acknowledged and valued, and all those kind of things by being a certain way. And then when you're not that way, people will, you know, or when your way doesn't agree with somebody else's way, they're going to, fling stuff. Flack. It's called flack. Flack. And we need to be strong enough to go, actually, that doesn't stick. No. But when it sticks, it's like yours, it's mine to deal with. If it sticks on me, then it's mine to deal with. And yeah. But being seen, daring to show up, daring to put your head above the parapet, you can be sure you're going to find people that will try and pull that down. And in a way, I think such has it always been. You know, think about all the great leaders, the great, you know, what they did to Jesus was an abomination. There's always going to be, that's why we don't show up, by the way. I think as a healer, it's very difficult to show up because he was, you know, the archetypical healer. And then following on from that, you've got the wise women, the witches, the herbalists, and all the people that have helped other people. That's a big story. And it's a good reason not to show up. But we have to be seen now, I think. We have to be seen now. Because we're the ones we've been waiting for. This is a big transition we're going through. And I think that we're needed. You know, you with your artwork, it's like, needs to be seen in the world. This is where we're at, actually. And if we can't show up in whatever way, you know, in our own unique ways, whatever that might be, we need it right now.
You know, and the thing you said about Jesus and like how he was treated, it's, you know, the connection between, we were talking about Inanna last time, and the connection between Jesus and Inanna, and, you know, the kind of the descent, the crucifixion, you know, and how that these end times, you know, are followed by a resurrection.
Yes.
You know, and that's quite fitting, isn't it, for where we're at?
Definitely, without a doubt. It's you know, we're being shown a story. We're being given opportunities to go, okay, that is where we're at. We can let go. We can say, okay, this is an end time. I really believe it's an end time, an end of everything that we knew. And the transition between, we're hanging on the hook, if you like. You know? It's not going to be 3 days and 3 nights. It's going to be longer than that. But we're in that place, hanging on the hook. Maybe I also like to liken it to the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis, goes to mush. Everything is going to mush right now. But there's imaginal cells. And those imaginal cells, and if you think about Inanna and Jesus, these are, you know, again, when they came out, when they resurrected, they were enlightened, if you like, lightened by going into those darkest of places, by being willing to surrender everything, not less than everything. And that's what we're being asked to do right now. And that's why it's so important to keep your eye on the future and say, that's where we're headed. That's what that's my focus. Because they both come out. You know, Inanna comes out, takes back her sovereignty. Jesus gets resurrected, takes his sovereignty. So that's where we're at. And they're great stories. They're great myths for us to look at and see. And then that gives you faith. And I kind of go back to the Mayan calendar, but, you know, at the end in 2012, that was called the end of time. So here we are 8 years later. And we are experiencing that end time. And everything I know about what happens at the end of that time is we become creators. We become the God, the God within. And going back to what we were saying earlier, that's hard to hold. It's like, that's a big thing. It's like, how could I be a God? How could I be God creating And if I am God creating, what have I created? That's this is not good news. I think it's really important that we understand what we are creating and how are we creating what we're creating. It's not popular, is it, to think that yes, I'm God. But instantly I can feel my resistance to even saying that, you know? It's like, oh no, don't. Can you edit that out, please? But I'm not creating that world, I'm creating my own world. And that's what matters, I think.
I feel every word, like with every word and with every action, I'm creating my world. You know, and I really feel that it's not a concept, it's an experience. And you know, and I get it wrong, you know, and I get it right. But you know, those things are so powerful. And when you go back to like the origin of like spells and, you know, abracadabra, and when we've talked about that, like I create as I speak,
Yes.
You know, and the word grimoire is connected to the word grammar, you know, and in the beginning was the word, you know, all of these things are just pointing to that, really.
Yeah, exactly that. And I love it. Spells, you know, we've spelled ourselves, actually. We put a spell on ourselves. The medicine wheel is a lovely example, actually, of dispelling those myths, pulling off those myths and saying, actually, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this, I'm not that. So who am I at essence? And it's good to remind ourselves over and over again of those things, because we're also human. We look at our creation and go, oh, I didn't, oh, I see now.
There's a lot to cast off.
Yes. Yes. Eons. Eon. For me, I do get this. The indigenous people talk a lot about calling on the ancestors, you know, because, well, they have a lot of wisdom. They have a gift. But of course, with that comes their baggage too. So we don't want to have their baggage, but we want to have their support for what we're doing. So we stand on their shoulders, and I feel sometimes they're real support. Like, yeah, God, we're with you, because we can do what they couldn't.
That's a really beautiful sentiment.
Yeah, I think so. And also to know that those that have gone are there supporting our journey onwards. And, you know, maybe so many people are going or leaving because we need that big push, you know, into the future that we don't know. I always think this: if people are listening to these kind of broadcasts or signing up to our newsletters or reading my Facebook page things or any of that, then I know that there's a lot of people who are here to help this transition, to support the earth as she goes through this big leap. And we're all going through it, the leap in consciousness. We're all going through it, whether you know, whether we know it or whether we don't. What we started with, which was about fear, it's like if we can step beyond that, beyond fear and beyond death. That's what we say when we open sacred space in the West. We call in that Jagera energy and help us to step beyond fear and beyond death. And then we become a force for change. So we empower ourselves to make that leap. You know, that's what it feels like. And then we step into something more magnificent than we can imagine right now. In this tradition, we talk about hummingbird, drinking from the nectar, the joy, and the sweetness of life. But actually, it's also about coming back to our essence. The essence self is beyond all this blah, 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 blah that goes on. And is guided by the soul, which we talked about earlier. It's like having that inner guide, having an inner compass that we trust, and learning to trust that is really important. I think my big thing at the moment is what needs to die in order that we all may truly live. What needs to die in me so that I can live wholeheartedly. And if I think about that, it's all the fears, all the beliefs, all the accumulated beliefs about the world that may not be true. And I want to question all of that, question my beliefs. Because we accumulate them through experiences.
And get the needle.
Yeah.
It's like that, isn't it? It's like we've got to let go of so much to kind of pass through into whatever it is that we're moving into.
Yeah. The eye of the needle. Let go of the baggage. See the light. It feels like we're really in the darkest of times right now. I think we talked about before Sodom and Gomorrah, how it was and how it is now, and everything that's coming up to be seen. So this is dark times, and there is a light that's really important to keep our focus on. And if you hold up a needle and you look through, then you can see the light.
And it's the inner light, isn't it? Of that purpose and the sovereignty and the inner guidance, and all of those things are kind of leading us to self-reflect or self-refer, to hold that light, because it's not necessarily always visible in the outside world.
And where it's visible is in our hearts, I think.
Yeah.
But if you can see it in the outside world, yesterday I was walking around the lake here, and I stood, and suddenly I could see the reflection of the sun, which was behind the cloud, in the water. And I just picked up my phone and I took a picture, and it turned out to be a heart shape. The trees made a heart shape. And right in the center was this little spark of reflected sun. And I thought, oh, that's a really beautiful picture. And then it occurred to me that that's the light in here. That, sometimes we have to see it out there in order to experience it within. It's, the world is our mirror. So outside, bring it home, bring home what you see. If it's dark and it affects you, then all right, it's your dark, and deal with it, heal it. If it's light and it affects you, then own it, because that's also your greatness, your magnificence, your beauty, your own essence light, which is it's there to shine in the world. And hiding it behind a cloud is not great. Don't shine too brightly. You might upset people.
Yeah. I love what you were saying about the constellation and how different stars shine at different times. I think that's really poignant.
Yeah, you look at the Pleiades at night, and it's fascinating. It's like a little, I love that. And in a way, that's why, because we're like that, up as above, so below. We are a reflection of that, and we're made of stardust. We're as much made of earth, but we're also made of stardust. And it's good to remember that. All the ancient peoples have looked to heavens for inspiration, and I think, yeah, we could do well to do that now. Be inspired. But the one thing we can do is to dream, envision. I don't know whether elephants do this, whether they envision and step into the world that they've envisioned, but I do know that this is something that humans are very good at, but we've forgotten. And inspiration is part of that, I think. It's like pulling inspiration, trusting it, following it, using our imagination, and then we can create, and then we can manifest something on earth.
I love the kind of breakdown of that word inspired or inspiration, you know, that it's in spirit. You know, it's about that being again, isn't it? And if the being is there, then the other things come.
Yeah.
In alignment and in the way that they're supposed to.
Yeah. In spirit. And breathing that in. Of life. It's simple. It's not easy. But it's simple. And we're not taught this, of course. We're not. We have to go and find it. And when we do, and we find it, and we follow that thread, something magical happens in our lives.
It's the hero's journey, isn't it?
And that's where we're at, really, because we're setting out on an unknown journey. Leave the shore of safety. And if you won't do it voluntarily, it's going to happen anyway. Most of us don't want to leave the shore. We want to stay nice and secure in what we know. And I know for myself, many years ago, it's like I knew I had to make this hero's journey, but I resisted it, and in the end, it's like I'm hanging on by my fingertips, and eventually, it's like God steps on my fingertips, and I have to let go. So we make the hero's journey, and it's an amazing journey. But again, I think everybody tends to make that journey in one way or another. But if you do it consciously, it's really magical. The return, we get the return at the end when we come back. We have wisdom and nectar for those who haven't made that journey yet, and we can share that. But it does require quite a lot of courage and facing our demons, facing our inner, it's this shadow work, of course, facing those aspects of ourselves that come right in our face.
The stick.
Huh? The stick. Being terrified by a stick. In a way, do you know what, Siena? I'm really lucky. I'm fortunate it was only a stick. Sharing your story is important.
Yeah, and there's the kind of the creative drive, like it's like an out breath of input into the world, you know, beginning that journey, and then you talked about returning, and that's almost like an inhalation and bringing that newness, that peace back in and bringing it into the body and into, you know, the beginning place in a way.
Yeah, it's a seed. It's like a seed that you plant, and then you plant it in you, and then you plant it in other people, and they grow and they go on their journey, and they face all their stuff, and then they come back and they plant seeds. It's like planting seeds of awareness in the field, and that's how consciousness has grown. That's how it happens.
Instead of the ripples that we see that are so choppy, but that, you know, that positive ripple effect where other people kind of realize, oh, I can do that, you know, well, look what's possible.
Yeah, exactly. And so much better to do it, you know, voluntarily as well. I mean, the stormy seas right now is like in the story of Jonah and the whale. You know, a storm blew up and everything's gone mad, crazy. The waves are taking over the boat. Everybody's afraid. And the captain of the ship says, somebody must have angered the gods. Well, we have angered our gods in a way by not paying attention to Mother Earth, by taking more than we need, by greed and all of those other awful things that we have done, by making war with each other, by, you know, we've angered the gods, and we're in that place. But what Jonah did was say, okay, I'll jump overboard. I'm sorry. I didn't answer the call, because he refused the call 3 times. And in the end, the whale spat him out in Nineveh, which is where God was calling him anyway. Come to Nineveh, come to Nineveh. So yeah, we're in that place of the choppy seas and the storm. And we've been called. And where is Nineveh? We don't know, actually. We don't know. But our soul's calling has, I think, the soul of humanity is calling us to step onto that path of, I call it the path of the sacred, the path of beauty, to step off of the other path that we've been going down for so long. Pete calls it the path of peace versus the path of poison. And I like that. It's like we've been poisoning the earth, we've been poisoning each other, we've been poisoning our minds, we've been you know, now we can take the path of peace. Perhaps that's what Nineveh is for us. Certainly feels like it for me. This is a big soul's journey for humanity, I think. One of those opportunities to reflect and in the belly of the whale go, whoa, what have we done? And do we want to continue down that road, or can we make another choice? And personally, we do that, don't we, through crisis. That's when we step off of the old path onto a new one. It's always crisis. So yeah, it's a hero's journey. But those who've made that journey before leave crumbs. So it's Hansel and Gretel as well. We leave crumbs for others to follow.
It's interesting, a collective soul's journey. You know, I was just wondering, when has there ever been a time like that before?
I was just wondering about other pandemics, you know, that have occurred, where so many people have died, like the Spanish flu, and maybe these were opportunities and we didn't take them. But their civilizations have always come to an end. You know, what happened to the Aztecs, the Mayans, what happened to the Egyptians, you know, those civilizations came and went.
Civilization is just a clearing in a forest.
Just that. And when they go, the forest takes over. A lot to think about.
So when's your shadow workshop going to happen?
Soon. It's nearly ready, but it won't be long.
And you'll announce it on your social media and stuff?
I will. Yeah, I'll announce it. It's a whole new universe for me.
Sounds about right.
It's been really good to talk to you, Siena, to have this dialogue back and forth, to share a few ideas and notions. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for setting this up and inviting me. And it's been great to just be able to share some of my thoughts and ideas. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to talk with you and, you know, just continue our discussion and conversation. And yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you.